envelope is white, standard issue. Your name is printed on the front in a font that does not care about you at all. Inside it is a check for $847, your first real paycheck. Not babysitting money, not birthday money, from a grandmother who tucks a 20 into a card and calls it a blessing. Check with your name on it, and a stub that shows deductions you don't fully understand yet, and a number that feels, in this specific moment, like the beginning of something. You are 18 years old. You do not know it yet. But this envelope contains two things: the money, obviously, and a decision that will be worth more than every paycheck you will ever receive for the rest of your working life combined. You just can't see the decision yet. Nobody showed it to you. Nobody showed most people. This is the story of three versions of you. Same income, same city, same ordinary life. The only difference is when you open the account. And the difference that makes is so large, so mathematically brutal, that by the time you finish this, you will understand something that cannot be unlearned. You are about to meet all three. Count takes 11 minutes to open. A Roth IRA through a brokerage your older cousin mentioned once at a family dinner. You didn't fully understand what he said. You looked it up that night. You are 18 and you looked something up instead of letting it pass. That is the entire difference, right there, compressed into a decision made on a Tuesday night with a phone that still has a cracked screen. You fund it with $200 from the envelope. The balance sits at $200 for exactly 1 week while you stare at it and wonder if you did something wrong. Then you set a recurring transfer, $200 a month. Automated. The day after payday. You never see it leave. That is the point. Your friends are buying things. Not extravagant things. Normal things. Sneakers. Tickets to shows. Meals that cost $40 and last 2 hours. Go to some of them. You watch the $200 leave every month, and you feel, occasionally, the friction of it. Friday, where everyone is going somewhere, and the mental math doesn't work, and you say you have something going on. You don't have something going on. Have $200 committed to a fund that currently holds $1,400 and does not feel like anything yet. You put it in a total market index fund. Expense ratio 0.03%. You read that the expense ratio matters. You remembered it. That is all the expertise this required. By 21, the account holds $9,200. The market dipped once. Hard, the balance dropped to $6, 105 weeks. You watched it. You did not touch it. Not from discipline. From understanding. You knew what you owned. You owned a small piece of everything that exists in the American economy and some of what exists beyond it. And you understood that the dip was not the end of the story. It was a chapter. Kept buying. By 25, the account holds $24,700. You contribute through college, through the years when the contribution feels impossible. Some months it's $200. Some months it's $80 because something happened. You keep the account open. The number keeps moving, not because you are brilliant, but because you are consistent. Consistency in a compounding system is the only form of genius that is available to ordinary people. Nobody congratulates you for this. There is no moment at a party where someone raises a glass because you automated a transfer and didn't cancel it during a difficult month. The work is invisible. The reward is invisible too, for a long time. That is the hardest part of starting young. You are building something that won't announce itself for years, and the world rewards things that announce themselves immediately. Keep going anyway. You are 28 now. The balance is $51,400. You haven't done anything spectacular. You have a regular job, a 401k you also contribute to, matched at 4%. The Roth runs alongside it, quiet, automatic, indifferent to whether you are paying attention. You increase the contribution when your salary increases. You do not upgrade your life dollar for dollar when a raise arrives. You upgrade it partially. The rest goes into the machine. Coworker asks, how you stay motivated to invest when the returns feel so small. You think about the question for a moment. The answer is that you stop thinking about motivation somewhere around month 7. Motivation is for decisions. This stopped being a decision a long time ago. It's just a recurring transfer. The machine doesn't need you to be motivated. It needs you to not turn it off. The first rule. Time is not a factor in compound interest. Time is the engine. Everything else is just fuel. You are 38. The Roth IRA alone holds $142,000. Combined with the 401k, you have $287,000 invested. This is not generational wealth. This is the foundation beneath generational wealth. Grows at a rate that now exceeds what you contribute in a given year. The machine is feeding itself. You don't tell people. There is nothing to tell yet. The number is real. The work was invisible. You just kept going. The decade between 18 and 28 was not wasted. Let's be clear about that. You lived it. You worked. You moved cities once. You had relationships, experiences, a kitchen table you actually liked eating at. You took a trip at 24 that you still talk about. You built a version of your life that felt, by any reasonable measure, like a life. You just didn't open the account, not out of recklessness, out of proximity. The rent was real. The car payment was real. The student loans were real and presentant, demanding in a way that an index fund balance of 0 was never going to compete with. You had a plan to start investing when things settled, when the numbers made more room, when you had enough to make it feel worth doing. The threshold kept moving. You kept following it. This is how most people lose the decade. Not through failure, through the completely rational, completely devastating logic of later. Later when the loans are smaller. Later when the salary is higher. Later when you have a clearer picture. Later always makes sense in the moment. Later is the most expensive word in personal finance. You are 28 now. Something shifts. A conversation, an article, a moment at a party, where someone your age mentions their brokerage balance, and you feel a specific kind of quiet that has no name but is unmistakable. You go home. You open the account. You fund it that same night, because you know yourself well enough to know that if you wait until morning, morning becomes next week, and next week has its own reasons to wait. You contribute $400 a month. More than the 18-year-old. You know you're behind. You compensate with urgency. $400 a month for 10 years is $48,000 in contributions. With market returns at the historical average of 10% annually, by 38, your account holds approximately $69,000. The 18-year-old's account at 38 holds $142,000. You contributed more per month. You have less than half. Ride that again slowly. You did everything right after 28. The index fund, the automation, the discipline, the raised contributions, everything correct. And the 10-year head start, the other version of you had produced a gap of $73,000 that you cannot close by trying harder. There is no version of effort that closes this gap. Only time closes this gap, and the time is gone. This is not a tragedy. This is math, the second rule. A decade of good intentions is worth exactly $0 in a brokerage account. The account doesn't know why you waited. It only knows you did. You are not behind in a way that ruins you. You are behind in a way that costs you something specific. Options. The future you, where the machine feeds itself before 40, where the compounding does the heavy lifting while you do other things with your salary. That version requires a head start. Without it, you work longer. Not forever, longer. The retirement date moves. The salary dependency extends. The window where work becomes optional instead of required narrows. You understand this now. You sit with it on a Sunday evening and you feel the full weight of the decade, not just what it cost you financially, but what it cost you in the future options it was quietly pricing out of reach while you were busy living reasonably. Then you close the laptop. You keep going. You have to. And you do. By 50, Your balance has grown to $312,000. Respectable, real, a foundation you are genuinely grateful for. But the 18-year-old at 50 is sitting at $687,000, same salary, same index fund, same market, different start date. The gap at 50 is $375,000, and the gap is still growing because the $687,000 IS compounding on a larger base every single year. That is how compounding punishes delay, not once, permanently. Every year the original gap multiplies because the larger balance earns more, which makes the base larger, which earns more. The distance does not hold steady, it accelerates. By 38, you understand money in a way you did not at 18. You've made mistakes that cost you. A credit card carried too long. A car decision that seemed reasonable and wasn't. A period in your early 30s when the salary was real but the direction wasn't. And you spent a year paying for decisions made in a different chapter. You have context now, financial literacy earned through friction, which is the most common way people acquire it and also the most expensive. You are wiser. You are also starting. You open the account at 38. You contribute $600 a month because the urgency is visceral now. You can feel the math pressing against the calendar. You max out your 401k contribution because you understand now that every tax-advantaged dollar matters. You read about catch-up contributions and you file that away for when you turn 50 because you are planning further ahead than you ever have before. You are focused in a way the 18-year-old never had to be because focus was never the problem at 38. Time is. You put in a total market index fund. Same fund, same historical return. You automate everything. You increase contributions at every raise. You do not take your eye off it. At 50, your balance is $162,000. The 18-year-old at 50, $687. The 28-year-old at 50, $312,000. The 38-year-old at 50, $162,000. You contributed $600 a month. More than both of them. You have less than either. The third rule. You cannot outwork time. Not in this system. Not ever. Discipline is real. Contributions matter. Strategy matters. None of it matters as much as the day you started. The calendar is the one variable in this equation that no amount of intention, effort, or sacrifice can move retroactively. You keep going. You have to. And you do. There is no version of this story where the 38-year-old stops. The point is never whether you keep going. The point is what keeping going produces when the machine had 20 fewer years to run. Not nothing. Not ruin. A ceiling. Solid, real, and lower than it would have been. By 65, the 38-year-old reaches $487,000. By 65, the 28-year-old reaches $891,000. By 65, the 18-year-old reaches $1,860,000. Same income, same index fund, same market, same 10% historical average annual return. The only variable was the start date. Let's look at all three side by side at age 65. The 18-year-old, $200 a month for 47 years. Total contributed, $112,800. Final balance, $1,860,000. The 28-year-old, $400 a month for 37 years. Total contributed, $177,600. Final balance, $891,000. The 38-year-old, $600 a month for 27 years. Total contributed, $194,400. Final balance, $487. 0. The 38-year-old contributed the most money. The 38-year-old has the least, by $1,373,000. That is not a rounding error. That is not a bad year in the market, or a difference in strategy, or a gap that discipline could have closed. That is the price of 20 years. 20 years where the account was empty, and the compounding had nothing to work with, and the calendar kept moving anyway. The machine does not care why it sat idle. It only accounts for when it ran. Look at the 18-year-old one more time. $112,800 in contributions over a lifetime. $1,860,000 in the account at 65. That means the market added $1,747,200. The market contributed 15 times more than the person did. 15 times. Not because the market was generous toward this particular person. Not because they picked the right stocks or timed anything correctly. Because they gave the system time to do what the system does when you don't interfere with it. The compound return on the early years is so large by the end that the contributions in the final decades are almost a footnote. The first $200 that went in at 18 has been compounding for 47 years by retirement. At 10% annually, $200 becomes over $18,000 from that single deposit alone. 1 month's contribution from an 18-year-old with a cracked phone and a paycheck they barely understood. That is what the envelope actually contained. When you are 18, every financial decision feels small because your life is small in the best possible way. The $200 feels small. The account feels small. The numbers feel like practice rounds for the real decisions that will come later when the salary is bigger and the stakes feel more appropriate to the size of the choice. Nobody shows you the 65-year-old version. Nobody puts the $1,860,000 on the table next to the 847 paycheck and says, "This is the exchange rate. This is what $200 a month, started now, is actually worth in today's dollars at the end of your working life." Because if they did, if someone sat down next to the 18-year-old with the white envelope and said clearly, without jargon, without a sales pitch, without anything other than the honest math, the most powerful financial move of your life costs less per month than your phone bill, takes 11 minutes to set up, and the return on that single decision will exceed every paycheck you will ever earn for the rest of your life. Most people would do it. Most people don't do it because nobody said that, not clearly. Not in a room where it landed, not in language that made the future feel real enough and close enough to protect before the weekend. Came and the $200 found somewhere else to go. You are watching this, which means you are somewhere on this timeline right now. Maybe you are 18 and the paycheck is recent and the decision is still completely in front of you. You have something no amount of money can buy back later, time at maximum compounding power. All of it, every year of it, still ahead. The 18-year-old in this story is not a character. That is you right now. And the account takes 11 minutes to open, and the first deposit can be $50, and the machine will run for 47 years if you let it. Maybe you are 28 and the decade is gone, and the machine is not running, and something in this video has been sitting in your chest for the last few minutes with a weight you didn't fully expect. That weight is the right response. Let it be real, then open the account tonight. Not next week, tonight. Because at 28 you still have 37 years, and 37 years in a compounding system is still a number that changes everything about what the second half of your life looks like. Maybe you are 38. Maybe you are watching this with the specific tiredness of someone who has heard this before and has not yet moved. You have 27 years. 27 years in a compounding system is not the $1,860,000 story, but it is a real number. It is the number available to you today, and it requires the same 11 minutes it always required, and the version of you at 65 will be standing somewhere very different depending on what you do before this video ends. The account does not ask how old you are when you open it. It does not grade you on when you arrived. It does not make you explain the decade you spent getting here. It only asks one thing. Are you starting? The envelope is white. The number inside, it is whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it says. What matters is what you do with it before the weekend, not next month, not when things settle, not when you feel ready, because ready is the feeling that comes after you start, not before. Today is the earliest you still have. That is all it ever was. That is all it needs to be. So you don't miss the next one. See you in the next.